why it's a contradiction. You said Q1 2025 is within 2025, and you also said it's not within 2025. That's the contradiction. No one ever has been more of an example of the Dunning-Kruger effect other than you. He said that same point, like 15, 20 times. Imagine if there was someone in the stream that was taking a shot for each time he said that. They're in the hospital right now. They're seriously in the hospital. Did you vote for Donald Trump?
100%.
Okay, why so?
Man, there's tons of reasons. I mean, realistically, the biggest reason is just for standing for the United States before everyone else.
So America first. Okay, so how is Donald Trump, or actually, can you name a Donald Trump policy that is America first?
Yeah, I mean, any one of them in reference to closed borders.
Could you name a specific?
I mean, there's several of them, and you can pick of any of them. Any one that references deportation, blocking down the border, building a wall. I mean, there's dozens of them.
Yeah, and I'm asking you, which specific one do you support?
All of them.
Yeah, all of them isn't a policy, right?
So I mean, you need a physical policy to argue over, or can you argue against?
No, just a specific one.
Because it seems like you're looking for a specific
policy. Yes,
specific policy. When the truth is, they all reference the same ideology, right? So,
okay, can you reference any of those specific policies?
I just gave you several. The wall, one of them. There you go.
Is that a specific policy to build the wall?
I mean, it was in a proposal of a policy.
Okay, so you can't name the policy. You can't tell me which one specifically built the wall. Actually, if we could have referenced a specific policy, the bipartisan border bill that Donald Trump called for people in Congress to undermine, that specifically would have built more wall than Trump ever built under his administration. He only did 23% refurbishment of the wall, right, of the border at the U.S. southern border, right, along with only 3.7% new wall. So take into account the entirety, right, of his situation at the border, he got less than 1/4 done at the border in 4 years. So in the next 4 years, I expect him to not even to get to 50%.
Okay, so let's look back at it, right? What was happening the entire time Donald Trump was trying to build the wall?
What was happening the entire time Donald Trump's trying to build the wall?
What was the Democratic Party?
He couldn't get people in Congress to agree on terms.
Gotcha. Okay, now whenever the votes were coming to the table, what were the percentage of the votes, Democratic and Republican, as in agreement and then in not agreement with building the wall?
It depends at what point you're referencing with the bipartisan border.
There were several, right? In most cases, it was because of Democratic blocking, which means what, right? The same thing that you're alleging that he did with the bipartisan border bill, they've been doing the entire time. Anytime Donald Trump tries to do anything at all, there's a wall of different roadblocks and hurdles that he has to get over and around, and not only fighting to help.
But you're referencing things Democrats don't support. You're referencing things Democrats don't support, whereas Donald Trump specifically ran on the border being an issue, yet literally undermined a bill that would have secured aspects of the border and helped the process go significantly faster in processing people who are going through the asylum process.
So the Democrats don't believe in the same thing. Then why were they putting that into their policies? Why are all of a sudden the bipartisan border bill? Hold on. Then why all of a sudden the bipartisan border bill is including these things in the policy in the first place, right? Like if you're saying that they don't agree with these bills, then how come they even proposed it?
If they don't agree with these bills, how come?
Exactly, right. So maybe they do agree with it, and they're more stuck on, or maybe they do agree with it, and they're just more stuck on doing whatever the opposite.
Tom, or maybe it is the case that in order to pass a bill within the context of Congress, you have to agree upon certain policy that has aspects of the bill that you don't agree with because it gets other people to vote for the bill. It's called compromise. So Democrats at this point, at the point in which they were willing to pass the bipartisan border bill, were willing to compromise on building the border wall if they could get faster asylum processes through the court system, right? And it could limit limitations on encounters for the border and a long-term solution. So Democrats were willing to work with the other side and actually compromise on it. And Donald Trump was not willing to support that compromise. Why so? because you're only going to reference points in time where they were not at a point where they were willing to compromise because they hadn't got a deal done yet.
Okay, so perfect. You said exactly what I needed you to say. So yes, there are things in which we should compromise on, and there are things that we should not compromise on. One thing that we should not compromise on is these asylees or asylum policies or referendums that they're trying to push, right? Because the truth is, it doesn't matter what we say on our side; it's never going to be enough. As far as the general left or the Democratic Party is concerned, there should be no borders, and we shouldn't track anybody or at all that comes through. And we should just let everybody send all of the money that they make back in the United States back to their home countries, right? That's what you want, right?
If someone wants to send money to a different country that they earned in this country, they earned the money. They have the ability to do that. That's their choice.
Okay, so what does that do to the economy of the United States?
It doesn't harm it. It benefits it.
Really, it doesn't harm it. So you have millions of people that are here that are sending money back to their home countries, and that doesn't harm the United States. And I would even tell you, I don't know how much. Oh, really? Okay. So let me put some references out there. Antonio Garza, he works for a company called Excel Construction Group. He's a roofer. He's here illegally, or he was here illegally. They just deported him not too long ago. He literally sent like 80% of his check home every single week, and so does 90% of the people that are here, because what they do is they send it home. And what do you mean not true?
It's not 90%. You pulled that statistic. You pulled that statistic right out of your.
¿Tú hablas español or no?
I do speak very small amounts. I don't speak it myself.
Very small amounts. Okay, so listen.
Like I took it in high school, and I can understand certain levels of.
Gotcha. Well, I actually employ immigrants. Okay, and I've helped several of them get their green cards or their work visas here in the United States, and I can tell you firsthand, almost all of them send at least a small percentage of their money back to their home countries. And I've asked them several times, hey man, how much are you sending home, and why do you send it home like that?
That's people going through the legal. So that's legal immigration, by the way. By the way, you're referencing legal immigrants. So are you disagreeing with legal immigration?
Hold on. So what you're saying?
Hold on. Can I have an answer to that question? Are you disagreeing with the legal? Are you disagreeing with legal immigrants sending money to their home countries?
Yes, it should be taxed.
Okay. So it is taxed. They pay tax on it.
It's not taxed whenever it's sent. That's incorrect.
It is taxed when they get it as income. So you think it should get taxed when they get it as income and when they send it?
If they're legal, right? That's if they're legal. Now, if you're paying a subcontracted group, right, that's one person's legal, and then that one person is paying the divided amount of all the rest of his employees, right, of their said or unsaid employees. First of all, none of them are paying taxes. Only the one person that's getting the actual
undocumented immigrants in 2022 paid $100 billion in taxes.
Hold on, listen. The one documented, or maybe two or three of the group that may be documented, they're the ones that are paying income tax. The rest of them are paying no income tax. They're giving them all of their money. They're paying them cash, very small amounts for labor, and then they're sending their money back to their home countries to build themselves.
Tommy, this is really frustrating to deal with, because it is the case that undocumented immigrants pay $100 billion in taxes in 2022. Secondly, if we want to reference this, if you want them to pay, if you want them to pay more in taxes, then give them a pathway to citizenship.
Okay, so again, you said they paid $100 billion in taxes. How much money was paid in taxes in that same calendar year?
Like over what? It's just. I mean, that was probably like what, a few trillion.
Oh, it was how much?
A few trillion overall.
Oh shit! Now all of a sudden, $100 billion doesn't sound like anything but a drop.
Undocumented immigrants are.
Now think about this.
Undocumented immigrants make up a small portion of the overall population. Of course, it's going to make up a small portion of the revenue.
Which is exactly the same reason why it's a very small portion of them alleged that commit crimes, because there's a very small percentage of them here. You're looking at things.
We reference per capita rates, dude. We account for population.
You're blocking me off because you're not letting me.
No, because what you just said was incorrect.
It's not how. Okay, so it's okay for you to reference those, but it's not okay for me.
I say correct things. You say incorrect things.
How's what I said incorrect?
I just referred to it. We're referencing per capita rates when we reference the PNAS. We're referencing per capita rates of crime.
Okay, and I'm referencing the per capita rates of income tax.
What does that even mean?
Exactly. I'm referencing the entire data pool of every single person. When
When we're referencing the percentage of revenue, undocumented immigrants serve as the overall proportion of governmental revenue in terms of taxation. That is not accounting for population. Per capita
How
is
many
accounting.
undocumented? How many undocumented?
What does per capita mean?
How many undocumented
What?
immigrants?
Wait.
didn't pay
Hold on.
taxes?
What does per capita mean?
Answer my question, and I'll answer yours. How many undocumented immigrants didn't pay taxes
I don't know. Can you answer my question?
per person?
Okay. It means per person. So it means it's divided by population. So
Right.
it's accounting for population. So if you were
Understood.
referencing the overall governmental revenue for taxation comparative to what was the amount of money that undocumented immigrants paid, that's not referencing per capita statistics.
Okay, but what I'm saying is you can't even count all of the specific data of undocumented immigrants. You have people that are here that were here on work visas that were supposed to have returned that didn't return, and now they're classified as undocumented. You've got situations where people were here and their citizenship or their green cards, their privileges were revoked, and they've not been deported yet, and they're still here lurking around committing whatever crimes. Those are also people that are considered undocumented. But all of those people,
people who are undocumented commit crimes at lower rates.
Hold on. Most of those people most likely still have jobs within the United States. So in most cases, they're still earning income. And then what are they doing with that income? If they're undocumented, then they're not doing what? They're not paying taxes. They're doing what with their money? Oh, that's right. They're sending it back to their home countries. Now, what does that do to our economy? If you're
Why are you saying the
billions
same
of
thing I
people-
already responded to? Like, I don't
because
get it.
it doesn't make sense. You're saying that it doesn't harm the economy, but
Yeah.
So what you're saying is billions of dollars taking out of our economy does not harm our economy.
Yeah, because it is the case that they specifically are choosing to do that based upon what they brought to our system. They specifically, right, worked for that money. They get to choose what is done with that money. The same way that you think that if rich people decided to put their investment in a different country, right, they should be allowed to do that. There are plenty of business owners that have investments in other countries. Do you want to restrict business owners in America from having investments in other countries?
Absolutely not. But
That's
here's
what
what
I thought.
happens, right? So it's a completely different spectrum, though. Okay, so let's take for in account another thing, another part of the good things that Trump has achieved so far is manufacturing. Um,
Well,
Companies like mine, right, that depend on labor sources such as immigrants, because I mean, I'm going to go out on a limb and say probably 85% of the people that are employed by me are here on a work visa. A very small percentage of them have achieved citizenship, but that's a very small percentage, right? So the manufacturing aspect and raising tariffs has done a couple of things for businesses all across the country. Multiple small businesses such as mine have went from importing our material like in bulk, such as synthetic underlayment or ice and water shield or hip and ridge or whatever the case may be. Instead of importing those from Alibaba, now my company specifically has imported the press that makes our material. And then now we source all of our steel from Ohio. So we went from importing our material to now we make all of our material homeland. Now it's not 100% in operations. We're only able to operate at around 40% efficiency right now, but it's still on scale. So by the end of 2026 to be at 100% operations. Now that not only did that change the entire profitability of my business, but it also allows me to expand my workforce, which is going to go to who? Right? So at the end of the day, you have to take all of those things into accountability, and you can't say, "Oh well, these people doing this doesn't harm our economy," when it 100% does harm our economy. Just because you don't want to look at it and say, "Oh well, a couple of billions of dollars is just a drop in the hat." Well, I would argue that them sending a couple of billions of dollars out of our economy completely offsets them paying a couple of billions of dollars in taxes.
Okay, so manufacturing investment actually declined under Trump's first administration, and it increased under Biden. Why?
So you're looking at the mass scale in accounting COVID within those statistics.
No, it wasn't even. I'm not even referencing like a net loss. I'm saying throughout the entire administration, it was on a trend down.
I haven't seen that graph. Can you pull it up?
I can't pull it up on screen for you, but it is the case that like you can just go to the St. Louis Federal Reserve and look up real manufacturing investment, United States by year, and you will see that.
That's the same graph that Dean pulled up the
Yes.
other day. It's highlighted
Yes.
in blue.
Yes.
Okay, so check this out, right? If you look at that graph, it ends at 2025. Do you agree with that?
Mhm.
December 31st, 2025 or 2024 is the very last day on that graph.
Okay.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah. What's wrong with that?
So Dean was trying to tell me that that graph reflects the first quarter of 2025.
It probably. I mean, I could check to see if it does. I haven't looked. I'm okay with
It
accepting
doesn't.
that it was.
I already pulled it up and
Okay.
tried to
What's your
explain
point with that? I don't care.
Yes, I was just making sure that you don't also believe that.
Does
So, all
that
right, so if
change?
you
Does
look at
that
that
change
graph,
any? Does that
if you
change
look,
anything?
if you look at that graph, right,
Is
then you will
that
see
supposed
that
to change
it's
anything?
not really what I'm trying to say. Show me where there's any decline in manufacturing. All that is manufacturing investment. That has nothing to do with actual manufacturing. That's
Wait,
that's
what?
manufacturing investment, and it
Weren't you
doesn't
just
account
referencing
for.
that there would be
Hold
more?
on, hold on, hold on.
Wait.
Let me finish my point.
No,
And
because
then it
you're
doesn't.
lying. You're lying. You're
How am I
specifically
lying?
because you're saying that the manufacturing investment is not relative to the jobs for manufacturing in the country, which is just not true. If there's less manufacturing investment, there will be less manufacturing jobs.
Okay, so
we're very much
at
interrelated.
what point do you invest? At what point do you invest in manufacturing? Where does the investment come into manufacturing? The largest portion of it.
What? Restate what you're saying. I'm confused.
Where is the largest portion of investment in manufacturing within the timeline from startup to operation? What is the most costly
for
part?
manufacturing? I don't know.
Okay, that's going to be startup. That's going to be your presses. That's going to be your dies. That's going to be everything that you need
What's your point
to
of this?
manufacture that. So that happens. That's a one-time cost. For reference, whenever I just bought my Stonefoot steel presses, I only had to buy that machine one time. I don't have to purchase that machine every year, right? So you're looking at cases where most of the people that were looking at bringing their operations to America along that time frame have already done so, and then they knew that Donald Trump was fixing to get back in office. So what did they do? They said, "Oh, well, I don't want to pay these tariffs, so I'm going to bring my operations back." So most of them have already brought their operations back to America along the time that Donald Trump was elected. And then you're saying, like, "Oh, there's a huge decline." There was not a huge decline. There was a gradual decline, but it was not by any means a huge decline. And then you're not even taking into account the major contracts like Apple, Amazon.
So let's just reference Q1 2017. It was 71 billion, right? And by the time that Trump left, it was 66.79 billion in Q1 2021. All right, by the time that Joe Biden left, actually it does represent Q1 2025, you liar. Right? It's specifically by the time Biden left, it was 149 billion.
Okay, now click on the very last point of the graph.
Yeah, Q1 2025
click back.
is 147. Is 147.
Now click back one click.
Yeah, Q4 2024, 149.
Oh, that's crazy. Now hold on. Now click back multiple clicks and tell me how many times it takes to get to Q3 2024.
I'm already there.
How many clicks did it take? More than one, right?
I didn't have to click it all. I'm looking at a graph.
Exactly right. So now whenever you look at that graph, it ends on the very last point of that is the start of Q1 2025.
Yeah, it says Q1 2025, 147.
Right, that's the end point. That's not. It doesn't reflect 2021 or 2025's Q1 findings.
Yes, it does.
Bro,
that is literally Q1 2025, or it's 2021.
Bro, I wish you could pull the graph up so I could cook you so hard right now, dude.
Look at it right now.
You're looking at the same graph that I'm looking at. How far past 2025 does the line continue?
It shows the findings from Q1 of 2025.
Okay, so look at the very bottom axis of the graph. Are you
saying because it doesn't say 2025 at the bottom of the graph that 2025 is not on the graph?
I'm saying that it does not pass 2025. There's no correlation.
It says Q1. One of the points on you're so disingenuous.
Bro,
He's so disingenuous. One of the points on the graph is Q1 2025.
Okay, now when was that graph released?
Updated May 29th, 2025. Next release date is June 26th, 2025.
Okay, now look at the bottom of the graph and see where it shows the actual release date of the graph. Because that particular graph was released in February of 2025. Now, how are we releasing a graph in February 2025 that reflects the entire first quarter of 2025?
I don't see where you see February.
Then you're probably on a site that reposted that particular graph.
I'm on St. Louis Federal Reserve.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. Why don't you click sources, go to the bottom and find the sources, and then go to the actual site where they released the graph.
This is from the St. Louis Federal Reserve, bro. But okay. I don't know what your point is. Like, what are you talking about, bro? Like,
my point is that for instance, the exact graph that you're trying to push right now about quarterlies and all, you're saying, oh, now you're saying the same thing that Dean said of, oh, this shows the first quarter.
Because Dean was right. Dean was right.
It shows the end. It does not. It shows the end of the quarter 4, ending on quarter 1 of 2025.
No,
if it did reflect,
it's totally fine. It's totally fine. I'm pretty sure you're misinterpreting that.
No, I'm not. If it did reflect quarter 1, then you would be able to click back multiple places to reflect different spots within quarter 1. I just want
to let you know, the quarter 1 data did not drop at the beginning of 2025. It didn't drop until probably like a month or two back, and that's because it was of the end of quarter 1. Now, so this is the end of quarter 1 data.
I seriously think you guys need to go back to school. You don't even know how to read a graph.
I am reading a graph completely fine.
Show the graph on your screen so your viewers can see it.
He's trying to say this data point right here, quarter 1, 2025, right, is indicative specifically, right, of the beginning of 2025, right, and not the end date of 2025 specifically. Because, and if what he was saying is true, well, then what he would be saying is we'd already have quarter 2 data because quarter 1 has already ended March 31st, 2025
How is
meaning that there would already be a data point. Stop talking. Stop talking.
You're literally twisting my words.
Meaning there would already be a data point for quarter 2 in the books because we've already met the end of quarter 1 and hit the point of quarter 2. So if it's categorized to the beginning date, we would already have that data because it's been updated, right? May 29th, 2025.
Dude, that would be the case if what you're saying is the case. Okay, what I'm saying is the last point on the map is the very start of quarter 1, 2025. So that would mean that there is no results or no data for any date within 2025. So how would there be a quarter 2 findings if they don't even have it published yet? That's crazy. You're literally just taking my words and twisting them to make it whatever.
So you're saying they aren't publishing data for 2025, yet quarter 1, 2025 is listed within it?
No, that particular graph does not show any data from 2025.
It does. Wait, I have a question. I have a question. Is quarter 1, 2025 within 2025?
Yes.
So if they have a data point, quarter 1, 2025, they have a data point from within 2025, correct?
No, that's the end date. That's the date.
Yeah, dude, he just contradicted himself and didn't realize. You said quarter 1. Listen, you said quarter 1.
That's the end point of the graph.
Listen. You said quarter 1, 2025 is within 2025, and then I asked you if the point quarter 1, 2025 on the graph is within 2025, and you said no.
Because that's the end point of the graph.
That's a contradiction.
How is that a contradiction? It ends
because you said it. You said quarter 1, 2025 is within. Wait, hold up. So here's why it's a contradiction. You said quarter 1, 2025 is within 2025, and you also said it's not within 2025. That's the contradiction. Very clear contradiction right there.
Okay, so you misunderstood and you're twisting my words.
I'm not misunderstanding anything. The graph is right here with the data point.
2025 is the end point of that graph, meaning that graph reflects all data points from up to
the end of quarter 1, 2025. Right. So if it's the last data point, listen, if it's the most recent data point, of course it's going to be the end of the graph. That doesn't justify your point that it's categorized to the beginning of 2021. What are you talking about, dude?
Okay, so I guess whenever you going over this later, whenever you're trying to lay down, you're gonna be like, "Damn, that dude was right. I'm an idiot," because you have no idea what you're talking about right now. That is the end point of the graph. Are you stupid? whenever you have two sections of
Dude,
data.
this guy
Hold on,
is
listen,
actually hilarious.
listen.
There's
You
no
have
way.
two
There's no
sections of
way.
data. You have a start
This is called the Dunning-Kruger
Hold on,
effect.
listen. You have a start point, and then you have a stop.
No one ever has been more of an example of the Dunning-Kruger effect, other than you. Is there anything you want to try to actually make a point on? Because you're not going to make this point.
Manufacturing as a whole is already going up. It's going to continue to go up because hundreds and hundreds of small companies, such as my own, are now importing our own presses and our own die kits and our own manufacturing equipment to produce our own products. Companies such as Modula, companies such as Apple, companies such as my own that produce metal roofing products. There's several tech companies, VLMs.
Yeah. Okay. So you're saying this country is going to be benefit by tariffs. You know, tariffs decrease the size of the U.S. economy.
Okay. So does millions and millions of foreigners sending their money back to their own country, and then that money never coming back to the United States.
Actually, if you look at immigration as a whole, immigration increases the size of the U.S. economy.
And the tourism, sure.
Could you provide me any source that says that immigration as a whole leads to lower GDP?
I mean, not off the top of my head.
Yeah, because it's a bold claim you just made up.
So okay, so you're saying that people sending billions of dollars out of our economy, hundreds of billions of dollars a year that leave our country to never come back, does not harm our economy.
One, you can't justify that it's hundreds of billions. Secondly, it's if you want to reference this, right, that still is significantly less than what they gain for the economy, right? Again, if we look at overall GDP increases, not decreases, if you could give me any evidence that because of this GDP decreases, then you might have a point. You don't have a point. And you're just lost.
Because
you're not based in reality. You don't care about evidence. Right, you didn't care about anything.
Hold on, you literally don't even employ anybody. You're talking to somebody who has 36 active employees.
Do you want a cookie?
You don't know half the things that you assume that you know.
Why do I have to have an employee?
Nothing that you know about immigration is accurate.
What do I need an employee for?
What's that?
What do I need an employee to understand?
What would you need? Okay, for one, do you know what employee payroll tax is?
Yes.
Okay, what is it?
So you have a tax specifically for the employer and for the employee, right?
That's right. Now, what is the percentage? What is the employer?
Isn't employee? It's 7.5 each, right?
Okay, so now if I employ 36 people, how much per year? If the average salary is $45,000 a year, how much a year do I have to pay in federal taxes just to pay my employees?
I can't do that math off the top of my head.
Okay, so I can break it down into retrospect. Last year we had 21 active employees. My end total was $371,000 in payroll taxes. Now we were able to get a lot of that deducted, but I got huge credits for employing people with fresh visas. Right? There's several deductions and credits that you can apply for employing several things. There's DEI. There's all kinds of enticements. Right? Now, whenever you take somebody that you're giving them the money that lives here in the United States, and then they're sending that money out of the country, and they're only keeping $100.
When he repeats the same thing over and over again, there's just like nothing to respond to. I kicked him out. Dude, he said that same point like 15, 20 times. Imagine if there was someone in the stream that was taking a shot for each time he said that. They're in the hospital right now. They're seriously in the hospital.